for joining us today for Experiences of Displacement. We have two incredible moderators and four incredible speakers. So our first moderator is Lai. Lai, you would know if you were here last year. He's currently Director of Development and Policy at Smart Public with a focus on global climate goals. He has hands-on advocacy experience for building change needed for dual technology space and has extensive experience in setting up philanthropic change-driven programs in the MENA. Justin, I'm really extremely happy to introduce you. So Justin is from the DRC, currently living in Uganda as a refugee. Justin is an MIT React and NAML alumni, and he's now co-founder of Up With Africa, an organization that provides digital education for refugee children and supports them to gain scholarships and empowers youth through leadership, entrepreneurship, and technology to become development actors in their communities. So two incredible moderators who I'm happy to welcome today, who also introduce our speakers. Over to you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Lorraine. I am not sure who he's introducing the first speaker. I will assume that will be me. Just give me a wink, wink. Thank you so much for what you just said, and it really is a pleasure to be moderating with Justin. Justin, we're definitely going to connect. Serious conversations at the moment in Uganda with regards to what we can do better in the context of refugees, etc. Literally as of last week. So this is super weird, and looking forward to connecting more. My kind of focus right now is to introduce Aiken. Aiken is a visionary entrepreneur who has founded numerous successful business initiatives and events. He has worked with ministers of several countries to develop digital nomad visas, create digital nomad communities, and change the perception of remote workers by governments and hosting countries, which, you know, we can all agree that's a heavy task to take on. Born and raised in a war-torn country, Aiken's ultimate goal is to enable people to travel, meet new people, embrace new cultures through remote work. He believes that by doing so, we can end wars, create more bridges between different cultures within our society. To bring remote workers together, Aiken founded what's called the Digital Nomad Association USA, which provides a platform for remote workers to connect, to grow, and experience unique adventures together. He and other digital nomads also host workshops to help people, including refugees, gain the skill they require to find remote jobs and network with other remote workers in order to achieve their goals, which includes traveling the world. Aiken's commitment to digital nomad lifestyle led him to host the Digital Nomad Expo in 2022. This two-day virtual event brought together different countries, cities, remote workers, locals, businesses, startups, and anyone interested in people's freedom and well-being through digital nomadism. Aiken's passion for remote work and cultural exchange has helped countless migrants find their way into the digital nomad community, inspiring others to follow in their footsteps. Can I get the moderator to play our 2-minute message from Aiken, please?
Okay, sorry about that. I think there's a step I need to take that I don't know about in order to share sound. So we did a test before and you heard it, but now there's a step I need to take that I don't know.
All right, let's see.
Maybe if you unshare and then when you reshare, there should be a little checkbox.
Summit, and this is a great opportunity not only to share my perspective and my thoughts, but also to really be a community together that we're connected with each other and supporting each other. I think that's a very important thing. Me personally, like I've started my life in a war-torn former Yugoslavia, and starting there, I think I've, in a sense, unfortunately, it's a sad aspect, but like I've mastered the way of explaining this, which is to get a better understanding of how a person starts life when it's in this kind of tough situation. Is everybody remembers, like, you know, if you think about what is my first memory from childhood, like what's the first vision that I had in my head, everybody has like, whether they had a toy or there was this or that, they went out at the park or something. My first memories are seeing soldiers that take people away and get in the buses and everything. And then I remember the refugee time that, because we went to Turkey. I remember the refugee camp, and I remember there again soldiers and giving us little drinks and stuff like that, and toys for kids. And then after that, I remember going back, seeing the house, because that was right after the war in former Yugoslavia. And we went back, it was like everything burnt down. And I remember finding my pajamas that were all burnt, and like the whole house was burnt. So from that has been the motivation for me to really, because things were not bright after the war ended, obviously, because we went through a lot of struggles, and still there's a lot of struggles out there in that, because it takes 100 years for an area, I believe, to at least recover from it. And that's why I feel a lot about the children in Ukraine. And not just Ukraine, because that's just the hot topic right now, because there's wars all over. So my name is Turkish, and like I can relate with all the borders around there and all the wars that are happening out there. I ended up being, in a sense, twice, migrating out of the place where my family is and where everybody is. So having experienced that twice after, all this, in childhood once, and then after I grew up, it's not an easy thing. And so after that, I have devoted myself really as much as I can to help people who've gone through these processes. And fast forward now, in the United States, having gone through growing up in a war-torn country, and all the struggles there, and the feeling of being a minority and thinking like the war is over, but then things going, keep going tough, and issues that you face. I've come to resonate a lot with the digital nomadic. And that's where I help, I founded the Digital Nomad Association here in the United States, where I live in California. And I've worked on the Digital Nomad Expo. And the reason for this is because I believe that with digital nomading, with people working remotely, there's not going to be wars, because that prejudice that we have towards other cultures and communities, you get to realize once you go to these places, to these countries, you get to realize that, those people live just like us, just they try to put food on their table, they try to provide for their family, they try to provide for the loved ones, they try to have some extra money to travel and go have fun. And they have the same problems, sometimes with parents. Don't go to that college, go to this. Why are you doing that? Parents, it's exact same scenario with little differences, which makes it even better, because there's, different diversity in cultures. And so in conclusion to my perspective of all this is that, that's what has put me into wanting to contribute and wanting to help these communities. And I think that anytime and every time, everything, things are possible. You just gotta not let the hope go, and fight, and enjoy the fight. You gotta be able to really have a purpose in life and be able to help and do good. And match that with your hobby or with something that you feel passionate about in order to achieve things. So as the last thing, I want to really thank everybody who created this platform to share stories and really empower people. And thank you, everyone. I think I've got a couple of minutes to put some thoughts in here. Actually, first of all, I want to just thank everyone who is, joining live from different time zones. And the most important thing that I think I forgot throughout the video to mention, speaking of the, having a purpose, is because, we all went through trauma and tough things. That displacement entails in that sense. And because of that, I really do believe that finding your purpose is, most importantly, starts by really understanding that you are capable of doing miraculous things as a human being. And the purpose of mine has been matched with helping people, and being able to do something that I love, that I feel passionate about, you know, a hobby turned into a profession. And I think everyone should take small baby steps towards, you know, things that they feel passionate about, that they love doing. And as a great example of that is the refugee team in the Olympics. That was something that I really resonated with when they created that, and you had refugees who were not able to pursue their passion, you know, representing their country, but they represented the refugee team, and there were a lot of them that won, you know, gold medals. And this is just a good example of that. It is possible, and you are able to do great things, and at the same time, that will help you overcome all the trauma and all the issues that you've gone through. And the thing I love the most, lastly, is that, you know, this community is so welcoming and understanding and empathetic, because like everybody went through difficult times. And so I'd say try to always connect with the community, because having people nearby and having other people who understand and at least listen to you is very important. Thank you so much.
Amazing. That's incredible, Aiken. I'm really, really delighted with some of the statements in the context of 100 years for places to recover, and then matching your hobby with the best things you want to do to fellow human beings, basically. I think it's time for me to take a step back. I'm not sure if Lorraine or my co-host Justin will be stepping in here, but Aiken, such a pleasure to meet you and to hear you speak.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here, and especially listening to incredible people today. So amazing today. Yeah, I'm going to introduce Nelly Furaha as one of our speakers today. So Nelly Furaha is a Congolese by nationality who has been never in Congo since she was born. So she grew up in South Africa and have lived her whole life in South Africa as a displaced person. So she relocated to Malawi in 2016, where she lives as a refugee, working on different organizations to advocate for refugee rights and refugee education. She is a founder and CEO of Grace of Light for Orphans, a charity organization based in Malawi. She saw the need of helping refugees children in Malawi, Uganda, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. She is a founder also of a Women's Voice, where she saw the need to empower refugee women through their storytelling. And she is also founder of Action for Men and Women for Change, which she created to increase equality among women and men. So Nelly Furaha has done a lot, has created a lot of organization. She has also done multiple projects to help young refugees, girls, to see their real potential through education. She has been helping refugees getting access through professional online courses with Finnish organization called Funzi. Funzi is a Swahili name, which means like, I would say learning in English. Yeah, so Nelly has also sacrificed her time to the community in Zeleka refugee camp in Malawi. In Malawi, where she have done a lot of work, incredible work in the refugee camp in Malawi. And she has been able to achieve a lot as a refugee, supporting her fellow refugees in Malawi. Yeah, so I would say Nelly is an incredible person. She has done a lot. I'm so inspired to read her story and to listen more from what she's going to tell us in the recording. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to join this wonderful event. I'm really, really excited to be part of this summit. However, I'm going to share my story with you today to let you know about what I felt and the journey that I went through. My name is Nelly Furai Kininga, a Congolese by nationality who has never been in his own country. I've been living in South Africa as a displaced and a refugee as well. I lived in South Africa for 20 years and relocated to Malawi and lived in Malawi as a refugee for six years. I know what refugees are going through. It's not easy to be a refugee because there are so many things that a person is going through: lack of education, lack of acceptance, lack of employment. Because most of organizations, they want people well experienced, and they find like refugees are well experienced, and they're not being given a chance of. I'll take an example in Malawi. The government of Malawi doesn't allow refugees to work. It's either they work as volunteers. You find that refugees are working a lot, using a lot of hours to work, but they're not getting anything. So the good thing to do about this kind of things is to give the chance to them so that they can show their capabilities and improve their talent to the world. Living as a refugee, I've learned a lot of things, whereby I'm CEO of Grace of Light charity, which is in abbreviation, it's called GLOW. I'm supporting refugees children in the host communities. I saw there was a need of helping refugees children because there's a lot going on, and I'm helping refugees children to give them a place to stay, give them food, providing them clothes and all the necessity needs that they need. I also saw there was a need of women to be given a chance of raising their voices. I came up with an idea of women's voice, whereby I could let all refugees, women, and immigrants to also express themselves in sharing, narrating their own story. Without having fear, I believe they can do it. And it's good to speak because you are really empowering yourself. All you need is to be confident within yourself. You need to know what you want. I also feel like there was a need of implementing equality among men and women. I came up with a new project named Action for Men and Women for Change. I wanted to use equality to be applied for all gender, for all men and women as a whole, so that men mustn't feel like they are being undermined and not giving their voice to speak. Men are also going through a lot of trauma, whereby they are able to speak their own feelings, think that the world is going to try them. In this panel, I always invite men and women to speak about their ideas. It doesn't matter of being a refugee, just narrate your story. You need to it doesn't matter how you're narrating it, and through your story, you can touch a soul or you can touch someone out there. I'm really, really excited to be part of this summit and sharing my story with you all. Being a refugee, I've learned so much. And what pushed me to come up with this initiative of empowering women's voice in the Leka refugee camp, I saw there was a need of women being given a chance of narrating their own story. Through storytelling, it's how people realize their true potential. I've been helping a lot of refugees in Uganda, Malawi, DRC, and I help them to narrate their story, and I help orphan children and street kids. I'm really happy to do such kind of initiative in the community. It doesn't matter of being a refugee. I am not going to be limited. What I can do, you can also do it. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Nelly. So amazing listening from you. Maybe you could come live and tell us a bit more. Hello, Nelly, can you hear us?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me. Hello.
Yep.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me today. I am very privileged to attend this important event today, because this has been the day I've been waiting for. And thank you to the Immigration Summit, for giving me such a wonderful opportunity. Thanks to MIT React and the MAL organization and the other colleagues who are part of this wonderful event. As you have heard about my story, my name is Nelly Fry Kininga. Yeah, it's really tough of being a refugee and it's tough being a displaced because there's so many things that people there's so many things that refugees are going through, even immigrants as well. But the things that we just have to encourage each other is to stay positive. No matter what you are going through, no matter how they are treating you, we need to make the world know that refugee, because some of the refugees doesn't know that a refugee has a right. So if you have to ask ourselves, does human rights really apply for refugees? Somehow I must say no, because there's a lot of things going on at the moment, whereby in Malawi, refugees are being surviving. They have been cutting off of their food ration, and per month, some of the families were removed from the food ration, and some are being given food ration. They are now giving per head 10 US dollar. This 10 US dollar, there's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So if you have to compare the life that a refugee is living, it seems like there's no humanity in it. So we would need more people who be courageous enough to advocate for refugees' rights. If yes, while they think that the resettlement is having a lot less percentage, I think the other way around, if refugees or any immigrant can be given, any displaced person can be given a scholarship opportunity to study abroad and even build their own life, because a refugee must not be limited to anything, because they've got a lot of talent that they have within them. And I really think that it would be great if they could be given opportunity to explore their talented. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much once again, Nelly, for sharing with us. So incredible listening from you. Yeah, I always call you a strong lady because we've met in several meetings and you always inspire me in a lot of things. So keep up the great work and congratulations again for what you've been done so far. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you,
Good.
Justin.
Good. So I'm going to introduce another speaker quickly. Probably it's not one, there are two speakers. There is Glory Lukambo and Luombo Walumbo. So these are two Congolese refugees living in Kenya. So Glory Lukambo and Luombo are asylum seekers from Democratic Republic of Congo. As I've said, living in Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya since 2016. In the year of 2017, they noticed that their family and their family neighbors faced challenges to access food. So this led them to found Vijana Toweza. Vijana Toweza is a club, is a Swahili name again, which you may say in English, Youth We Can. So these two people created this organization of refugee youth working to address hunger-related issues. And both of them left their home country after completing secondary education. And unfortunately, they faced challenges to pursue further their education. Yeah, so these are two incredible people who are doing great work in the refugee camp in Kenya. So however, they opt to pursue short online education program from Geneva University and Regis University, where they enrolled for the BA and Southern New University. Yeah, so that was also a good plan for these young people. So their participation in this education program have been very instrumental in the development of their organization and life of refugee camps. So in this panel, they will be both sharing, they will be sharing their stories. Let's listen from them and they'll come live to give us more insight.
Hello, it is a big pleasure to meet at this Migration Summit. My name is Glory Lucambo, and I'm going to present here with Dieu Merci Lundo our work at Vigilance Weather Club, a youth organization working to address hunger-related issues in Kakuma refugee camp. And here I'm going to talk about the Fishing in the Desert project, which is our main project that we run in Kakuma refugee camp. And this project aims at combating malnutrition among children under 5 years and also pregnant women who are either at risk of getting malnutrition or are currently facing challenges with malnutrition. So we work in Kakuma refugee camp. I hope you have already an understanding of where Kakuma refugee camp is because many people from Kakuma refugee camp have participated in this migration summit. So it is a refugee camp in Kenya that has many people from the Democratic Republic of Congo, from Somalia, from South Sudan, from many other countries. It was at some point the second largest refugee camp in the world. Currently, I think it's the second largest refugee camp in Africa. It is in a very semi-arid region with very rare rainfall and all that. So that's why it's a semi-desertic climate, and that's why we call it Fishing in a Desert project. So I'm going to just share with you guys a couple of pictures of our Fishing in a Desert project and also tell you at the end of the presentation what I think we need and other refugee-led organizations here and in other refugee camp need to grow and successfully run their activities. So the Fishing in the Desert project is a combination of fish farming, vegetable farming, poultry farming, and insect farming. And these elements support each other and they make the whole system sustainable. So wastewater from the fish pond, we use that to water the crop because they're very nutritive and they're very good for the crop. And dropping from the poultry, we use that to fertilize the pond and also fertilize the crop farming area. The crop provides feed for insects or for crickets, and crickets provide feeds for the fish. And in that interconnection, we've been able to build a sustainable way of farming. And we hope that it's a model that many people should follow for them to grow. So this is a picture of our fish pond last year before harvesting and renovation. And you can see we had guests from refugee primary schools, and I'll talk about them briefly at the end of the presentation. Currently, this is how the fish pond looks like. We've been able to cover the pond and also section it into 3. That's a big renovation that we think is going to translate into having more and better production. This is also the current state of the pond, and on my right, you can see we've been able to build 2 new ponds, one Arten pond and one dam liner pond, to just increase production. Here, we've been able to also construct a better and friendly environment for the insects. You can see that small house there inside. We rear the crickets, and here you can see a picture of our crickets, our ducklings, and also a couple of eggs. So this is basically what we do. This is our team in front of one of our previous crop rearing sites. You can see all of us are refugee youths in Kakuma refugee camp, either refugees or asylum seekers in the refugee camp. This is a picture we've taken last year of farm still. And here is what we've been able also to do. We've been able to renovate and improve the farming site. So we've been able to cover one section of the farming site, and you're just going to see what that's going to translate in terms of production. So briefly, Vigilance does also what we call the Sustainable Agriculture Project, which is a project where we share our knowledge with primary school children in primary refugee camps here. And we are currently developing the Nutrika Kuma project, which is going to be a project aiming at promoting the consumption and the farming of Moringa oleifera, because we believe that this miracle tree is really nutritive and it's going to help especially children under 5 years who are currently suffering or who are at risk of suffering from anemia, and also pregnant women, because we have a very big anemic number of people with anemia in Kakuma refugee camp. So we've been able to do a demo site farm that's been running now for almost 6 months, and it's been growing amazingly well. So we already have some production. We are actually learning and collecting resources to make sure that we'll be able to run this in the future. But as we do these activities, we face a lot of challenges, and that's what leads us to these needs that we think that if we have improvements on this, we are going to be better at what we do, and many other refugee-led organizations are going to be better at what they do. So we need support and cooperation to scale up these particular projects and many other projects. And what we mean by support in this case is we need better education, we need advisory, we need funds, grants, loans, we need strong and mutually beneficial partnerships with existing organizations, but also organizations that are not currently working in the refugee camp. And on the side of the government, we need them to develop and implement policies that favor growth of refugee-led organizations. This includes having welcoming refugee status determination processes, having friendly refugee-led organizations registration processes, and abolishing the encampment policies, or at least easing refugee movements from the refugee camps, because these are really issues that affect us a lot, and they make it difficult for us to grow. The encampment policies, for instance, make it difficult for us to meet with suppliers. So we believe that improvement on this is going to be equal to more production, better production. So thank you very much for listening to our talk, and very nice to talk to you guys. Thank you very much for everything.
Thank you so much. It has been so wonderful. Yeah, thank you. My colleague will jump in again to introduce the next speaker. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks, Justin. All right. Our next speaker is Sharaf. Sharaf is a Pakistani JavaScript web developer and a former student of the coding school Hack Your Future in Belgium. Having lived in three continents, amazing. He understands demographics and likes to engage with people from different backgrounds and can easily adapt to different environments. Apart from growing by learning and new programming skills, he also aspires to create awareness about the long-term impact and importance of mental and physical health when it comes to tech and desk jobs in general. Through his upcoming initiative, Fit for Development. He also takes great interest in politics and social challenges. Sharaf believes in helping the less privileged in the society by advocating for the direct spread of education to target population in third world countries, and for them to be able to generate wealth instead of relying consistently on financial aid, which reduces corruption and dependency. Sharaf will, like one of our colleagues, to tell his story. So I would let Sonia step in and tell Sharaf's story to our audience today.
Thank you very much, Lai. My journey started when I arrived in Belgium in 2019 as a newcomer in Hasselt-Limburg province. The next month, I started my Dutch language course, and it was difficult for me to find a decent job without the language skills. Side by side, I was also doing the mandatory integration course. Things were going well, and I saw a good future for myself, but this did not last long. At the end of 2019, the world was hit with a pandemic, coronavirus. During the same period, I was going through a divorce, and I had to leave the place where I was living due to some legal obligations. A few months down, the world was in a lockdown, and there was a state of panic everywhere. Due to the lockdown, I had no place to live, and I started living in a shelter. This was the lowest point in my life and an experience that I would never wish for anyone to go through. I was really depressed, and the airports were also closed, so I could not travel back to my home country to see my family. It was during this period of uncertainty that I was introduced to Hack Your Future, a coding school for refugees and newcomers. I enrolled for the course, got selected, and joined the class. Due to difficult living circumstances and limited place in the shelter, I had to spend 2 weeks on the streets and 2 weeks in the shelter. And it was due to mental pressure and depression that I could not concentrate on my coding course, so I dropped out. Later, I was approached by Lion, the communications manager at Hack Your Future, who wanted to know why I dropped out. On knowing my situation, the management gave me words of encouragement and left the doors open for me, and they were generous to reserve a seat for me for the next batch, if my situation got any better and if I was ready to study. Luckily, one morning I got a call from my city center and they found a permanent place for me to stay at a B&B for 3 months. During this period, I enrolled for the next batch at Hack Your Future. This was the turning point in my life, and I got introduced to the ocean of the programming world. I got new meaning to my life, and it was all made possible by an organization who cared for people with language barriers, who were very patient with people from different educational backgrounds, and gave everyone an equal chance to learn. In my period of darkness, I saw Hack Your Future as the light at the end of the tunnel. Now I'm successfully working in the IT field for a software house back in Dubai. If it was not for organizations like this, a lot of people with great capabilities would lose the meaning to life due to circumstances that they do not control and would be forced to live a life that they did not choose. Turns out that sometimes charities and organizations have an impact that can save generations, making the world a better and more productive place to live in. Thank you for listening to Sharaf's story.
Thanks, Sonia. I think you laid that well. Some of the key points that I kind of picked from that almost immediately is the challenges of interim accommodation, mixing that with trying to get employments. I cannot believe that we're still talking about accommodation and interim accommodation as of now, considering what's happened and 2011 onwards, etc. Actually, I'm going off cue here. I'm not sure what we're supposed to do next. I think, Justin, we're supposed to go one-on-one and unpack this. And I think we've already started that quite naturally. Nelly, thank you so much for how you've stated what you're up to and what you're doing. Again, one of the exciting things about this platform is post-platform and what can happen. I would love to kind of pick your thoughts on the context of what's going on the ground. I think I took a note in the context of resettlements regarding Uganda, Malawi, DRC. And you mentioned something around the subsistence allowance that's given to refugees, something about $10. How long is that supposed to last for? And apart from that $10 that people are given, what other wraparound supports are provided? I'm super interested in knowing that, and I'm sure the audience will be super interested in understanding that as well. So that probably will be my first question to our panel members is to Nelly. $10, how long is that for? What's it supposed to be used for? And are there any other wraparound services provided apart from the accommodation that's given? And we'll get to that as well in a second. Bear with me, Justin. I had a few questions there, man. I just had to get them out quick.
Do you want me to respond to them now?
Yes. I mean, if the team and the summit is okay with that, I think we can begin to
Yeah,
unpack.
it is. Thank you so much for your questions. This $10, it has been in 2019 when COVID came and started ruining everything. So in 2019, WFP asked to discuss that there are some of refugees that have to be removed from food ration. So this was the assessment that was done in the community, whereby the WFP team were moving from each houses of refugees in Zaleka refugee camp. If they found your house is like you have renovated the house, you get a chance of buying comfortable couches, you have a TV and whatsoever. So those kind of people were put in the list of being like cut them off from the food ration. So in January, in November and September, refugees didn't receive anything for them to sustain them for those 2 months. So there was a meeting going on with the WFPs and the UNHCR saying that they are running out of donors in order to keep on sustaining food on refugees. So those people have been cut off from the food ration. Some of them, they are not working. There are people, their siblings who are living earlier in the Zaleka refugee camp, who relocated from the United States years back ago. They were the ones who used to like, they can send you $100. And you're like, no, what can I do with this $100? Should I spend it all on food? What can I do? You found like your house is leaking. How are you going to manage that $100? You need to start buying the iron sheets so that at least the house can start looking good. By then, before COVID started, things were cheaper. But since COVID-19 started, everything gets ruined. The economic of the country became worse. Things became expensive here and then. Based on the question of the $10, they're like, which means if we have to do the sum. It means like each meal you have to spend 50 cents, $1 divided by 2 for one meal. So if you have to divide $1 divided by 2 for one meal, which means you have to make sure that this $10 it's sustaining you the whole month, which is very impossible. In that $10, you have to buy to include cooking oil, soap, maize flour, and even anything that you have to eat with that thing that you have to buy. And based on the economic of the country that is going down here and there, you find that 5 kgs of maize flour at the moment in Malawi is 10,500 kwacha. With the rate of today, that's $10. Imagine if a person who has the family of a ration card of one person, can someone eat maize flour or make maize porridge without sugar? The answer is no. So there's no human right being applied for refugees. So if we take for a family of 10, a family that has 10 kids, at least on their side, but still it's not enough because they have to buy the food, the meals that have to sustain the family for the entire month. But how are they going to sustain their life with that kind of money? So I've been participating in meetings whereby I had to go by myself and meet with commissioners of refugees, and I had to speak on my own way. I'm like, yes, we are refugees, but we deserve equal rights. Human rights in Malawi is not being taken seriously based on refugees. Some have been like moving out of the camp to the rural areas to even start selling tomatoes, onions, just to make their lives more useful. But we found that based on the press release of 4th May, the president said that he wants all refugees, the commissioner of refugees said that he wants all refugees to relocate to Dzaleka refugee camp, where in Malawi we have over 40,000 refugees. If we have to put that small camp to accommodate all this kind of refugees, where women are giving birth every day, the child labor cases whereby refugees are being killed in hospitals, and you found that these free things, because some of the families cannot afford to go and pay money for a private sector, they prefer to go to this government hospital. We have lost a lot of refugees' lives, but because you are a refugee, you can't advocate. You are having self like, what if I advocate? I must be the next target. But where is the work of the human rights? Where the human rights is acting as a changeable solution to help these fellow refugees. Of course, we are refugees, but we are not animals. We deserve to be treated equal. Equality had to be applied to all, no matter your race, no matter where you are coming from. We both shed the same blood, because if they're cutting a refugee and they're cutting citizens, we're still bleeding the same red blood. Why there's no love and unity among the nations and among refugees?
Indeed. Thanks for this. Yeah, this is really, it's a really tough one. And we talk about moving on. We talk about academic. We talk about professional and things like that. But some of the key basics is if you can't eat and if you can't sleep, and if you lack nutrition, as we've always said, in the case of young children as well, without nutrition, then it's zero. And I think, this is part of the work, the type of work that ACAN and the NAMAL, etc., are doing around remote working and being able to provide and being able to eat while trying to, climb the ladder of employment or get better. That's why those kind of, that sector is critical. Justin, I'm not sure if you have anything to add but basically from what I've just heard, accommodation and remote work are very, very critical, and also nutrition. If we can get these three things right in the context of the refugee camp environment, then people will move onwards in a better state of mind, and also create opportunities for themselves. I'm seeing some ping from some of our attendees, Professor Binta Abdul Karim, regarding migration in northern Nigeria and things like that as well, and the discussion fits in IDPs induced by religious insurgencies. Wow, that's gonna blow us off, but I get your context, Professor, about the internal displaced persons environments, ECC. I think again, if we can get three things right: nutrition, supports in the context of part-time or remote work, and good basics of accommodation. I think all of these things can be replicated globally in every IDP, and we will get the same results. Just people moving on better and faster to do good things. Justin, I will take a step back now and ask for your take on some of the things we've heard so far.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm too curious about what Nelly has just said. I'm also a refugee in Uganda and have almost experienced the same issues here. Yeah, so what Nelly has just said that is happening in Malawi, it's familiar to what is happening in Uganda. So I'm just curious, Nelly, maybe you as a refugee, do you think, just seeing this word refugee, this label refugee, do you think there is any other way or any other word that can be used to describe more people better? Because when you hear the word refugee, other people think like, oh, refugee is just someone who is supposed to suffer, doesn't need to have better life. So would you suggest any word or anything maybe that could describe better these people who are called refugee? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Justin. I think instead of these people being called a refugee, I think there must be a certain way of them being called. It's either a journey of a displaced individual. Then that has to be put in abbreviation, because I'm sustaining the life of refugees of 500 kids. I'm not getting any support from any funds, from any international organization. The money that I work from any different kind of any NGO, I'll use the same money to buy food, to buy bed sheets, and I'm paying for 15 kids school fees. I have 4 at university, and I have the remaining ones at secondary school and other ones in primary school. So I'm just feeling the need, like it really pains me a lot to see how I've gone far with education, but my fellow refugees can't get it. So I was like, I tried to work with the humanitarian services, whereby I got 280 refugees to be enrolled at university and some at boarding schools. I fought so hard for my fellow refugees. So instead of these people to be called refugees, or if they feel like there's no need of like helping refugees, or for them to have a safety place for them to call a home, at least there must be integration. If there's no integration, that be saying about repatriation, then it's good for them to be repatriated and have peace of mind, because these people have been traumatized. But instead of them having peace, they keep on adding to their problems. Their problems are not being sorted out, and it's bringing more conflict between. It's creating more conflict between refugees and the citizens. which is not really worth it at all. Thank you so much, Justin. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've got what you said, that yeah, it's better to call these people at least differently than calling them refugees, such as displaced people or any other word which could be describe them better. Okay, thank you so much, Nelly, for your time and your speech. So let's hear from another person. Yeah, I've just a question about Erkan. I have heard from you, from your story. It was really amazing, and really I was impressed. So I have just a simple question. Would you maybe talk to us about the importance of finding your purpose? Or how important is it finding your purpose or your work, let me say like that? And what could be the challenging, I mean the challenge you faced along the way working on your purpose? Thank you.
Thank you so much. So speaking of purpose, I do believe that the first step, especially when you're in a foreign country, in a place that you're not, you haven't started your life with and everything, the first feeling that you get is that all friendships have already been created, and you're coming into a place that you don't have connection with anyone. I'm gonna just share, like, in my perspective, how it's worked is, finding a purpose is, first of all, it's about understanding that you can have an input in life. Being a displaced person, you can have, you are able to help, and you are able to do something good for the world. And while doing that, really enjoying what you do. Again, I'd love to refer to the example of the, because that really resonated with me, the refugee team on the, like, in the Olympics. Like, imagine yourself, like, devoting yourself and, like, for so many years on a particular profession, and you're starting from scratch at another place. But at the end of the day, if that profession was something, or like if that hobby was something that you really, felt passionate about, you should seek options of continuing doing what you love doing, because that is going to be the single most important thing that's going to connect you to other people in that place. Whether it is, you love swimming, whether it is, you love, coding. I hear so many, great examples of, people just, finding out, and do not, give up on, like, we're just, generally strong people, because going through all this takes a lot of, strength and personality. And because of that, it's a matter of not giving up and trying different things, when you're outside of that area that, has risked your life. And it's not always easy. Refugee camps, I've experienced that, for a decent amount of time, and it is not an easy process. However, keeping a strong mindset, of, like, I am going to achieve, being stubborn, in other words, is very important, one. And secondly is taking small steps, not putting yourself, like, of, like, long-term goal of achieving. Yes, where you're directing yourself, whether it is through profession or through hobby or anything, but, like, taking small steps, saying, like, for this week, I'm going to achieve this, and actually doing that. So, like, a little of discipline, because it also helps you keep your mind busy on your goals, instead of having your trauma always take over in your brain, and fully focus on the bad things that happen to you. So that has been the solution that I pursued, that has brought me into finding my purpose. And I hope in any way possible, this helps anybody else who is looking for their purpose. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, let me pass to Le.
Sure. Glory, is Glory still online? with regards some of the work being done in Kukuma and the business startup, etc. I would really, really love to understand what your key challenges are in the context of policies, and in the context of the environments within the camp as well. You're able to serve the camp. Are you able to serve outside the camp if there's demand in the market outside the camp? And if you can't do that, what are the policies that are stopping you from doing that, etc.? Again, this is all about unpacking what are the barriers and what can be practically done. As Aiken said, one step at a time and one thing at a time. What can we practically do to help you as fast as possible in the context of policies, and what might block some of the activities you're trying to carry out, if any? Over to you.
Thank you very much for the question. Hi, everyone. So at the moment, I would say it is possible to, for instance, sell fish as products of activities to members of the host community, because they just live just at the verge of the refugee camp, just on the other side of the river. So they can easily cross the river and come to the camp, and they can buy from us. But at the moment, as we speak, Vigilant as a club, we are not that able to produce a lot to meet the demand in the refugee camp and to expand. So that makes it difficult for us to access other markets. At the moment, we are only selling in our market, but definitely some members of the host community can as well come and buy from us. Although at the moment, they're not really part of our main target audience, given that we are not really able to produce enough. That's what happens practically on the ground. But if we have to talk about the policies, it is still a little bit, if I may say, illegal for us to go to the market outside the refugee camp because of the movement restrictions. Currently in Kakuma refugee camp, there is an encampment policy, or at least on the, I would say at the judiciary level, there are acts and piece of laws and legislations that on paper would allow easy movement or easy trade or integration on the likes. But when you come to the refugee camp and then you start looking at the processes, like the implementation of these laws and these policies and these regulations, that's where the problem is. And technically on the ground, we are restricted from going to external market, and that makes it very difficult for us to serve members of the host community. Something else, for instance, in Kenya, if you're doing fish farming, you have to have a medical certificate, a certificate that testifies that you are healthy, and it's kind of like a license that gives you permits to do agricultural activities. But if you go to any office of the government to access that particular permit, you just won't get it. And the only reason why you won't get it is because you're a refugee. And they'll tell you that you need an identification card to access a particular government service, including the provision of this certificate. And when you go with your refugee identification card, then it's not recognized in the system. They will tell you, yes, on paper, according to the laws, you should be able to acquire this, but the technologies only accept a national identification card. And all that just makes it difficult for you to access the document. And then you find yourself in a situation where you're producing, you're selling, but it is not legally protected. And that makes you vulnerable, because anytime any agent of the government can come and arrest you or at least accuse you of something. So all this just creates this very difficult context where we're in. And when Nelly was speaking, I was very, very touched, because it's actually almost the same situation in the refugee camp. When we started Vigilance as a club in 2017, we actually started in 2018, but the problems we faced were in 2018. At that time, the World Food Program was also cutting down the rations because they were not having enough funds to feed everyone. And since that time until now, they've been always cutting the ration down. And you'll realize that there are people like us, there are many other people who will try to come up with solutions that may be supportive. But unfortunately, the policies, the regulations, the laws don't allow good things to happen. And I think there is a difficulty there that many people need to address, particularly the government. And I don't think it's only here in Kakuma refugee camp. I think it's a situation that many other refugees face in many other camps, although the context may be a little bit different. Yeah.
Incredible. Well, that's a very detailed answer. And again, it's all about unpacking and discussing what else can be done. And I think this conversation should be taken forward in the context of economic policy, and are they really working, and what can be done to make it easier, make it happen faster. And I know, this is a panel, we're talking, etc., but our migration summit is the migration summit, and anyone who knows me and Lorraine, etc., knows, we effectively are always kickboxing, trying to get something done between ourselves. So rest assured, some of these issues raised here will actually be developed into talking points and potentially what can be done to address them. So I see Tumani Sidibe, Tumani, you're online. We talked about Mali, etc. as well during our last conversation. That definitely needs to be followed up. And everything we're talking about here boils down to education, employment, accommodation, and nutrition. And we kind of have the key change makers in the room who can bunch heads together and potentially come up with a to Z, a solution of some sort that could potentially be piloted. Lorraine, oh my God. Yeah, you know, I will be on your case on this because it is time, you know, and from some of the conversations, refugee-led organizations for many, many years, 20 years or so, it's been, you know, externally led. I believe refugee-led organizations are ready to move from within, backed by the externally led organizations. And I feel like governments will really potentially be interested to supporting something like this. Local governments, I mean, when it impacts the local economy. So I think that there is room to speak further and to go forward on this. I will move quickly to Sharaf in the context of Belgium and when you were there. One key question, Sharaf, what do you think would have made any difference to you and would have prevented you from dropping out during your whole experience and your whole journey? What could have saved you from dropping out, basically, if anything at all? I love saying this. You're on mute.
Hi. Sorry. Yeah, well, in my situation, you know, the timing was a bit different because, you know, the world was in a lockdown and there was a state of confusion everywhere. So in my situation,
I think we lost you, Sharaf. Hello. All right, I think we lost you. Okay. I think we lost Sharaf. That would have been really interesting to hear what he had to say. I'll open up the floor again to Justin and even the rest of our panel members in the context of this. You're back. You're back.
yeah, sorry, I think it's just the internet.
Super.
Okay, so I was saying that in my situation, a lot was involved due to the pandemic and the strict lockdowns. There was a state of confusion everywhere. So in my situation, what I needed at the time was a lawyer. And the problem was that I didn't speak the language in Belgium, the Dutch language. So I had a challenge with the lawyers and to get, you know, if I had a lawyer or if I could pay for a lawyer, you know, things would be different for me. And, you know, the pro bono lawyer, which I got, he did not even communicate with me. And so, you know, things were really difficult there because of the lawyer. And yeah, a lot of human rights were violated as well. So, you know, I couldn't imagine that being in Europe, I had many human rights violated and I couldn't do anything about it. Even the law enforcement guys could not do anything about it. And, you know, there were strict lockdowns at the time. So maybe it was just that time of the where everyone was in a state of confusion. Even governments were in a state of confusion. So I think that was the case.
All right, understood. So, you know, I'm unpacking that basically the access to legal advisors would have really made life easier for you and help you navigate. And again, these are the important things in terms of refugees, accommodation, education, wraparound supports, which includes legal. So Justin, Lorraine, where are we at and where do we take it from here?
We have a question. So the Migration Summit hand is up. I'm not sure who's behind that hand.
That's me, Evan, today.
Oh, go ahead, Evan.
Hi, question first for Erkan, then I guess for others. You talk about finding a purpose and a direction, but it's helpful during that to know what options are available. So do you know of companies that give preference to digital nomads from a minority or displaced community, or at least set a quota for mentoring these sorts of profiles? And that's not just an HR publicity, but actually do that?
Thank you so much. That's a very good question. First of all, to direct, like I would personally not, I don't prefer to specify as an what the purpose of a person would be, because it's a matter of, it's your journey, you know, and I think there's a joy in you going through your own journey of exploring what you actually enjoy doing, and what actually you know, resonates with your personality and resonates with your you know, with your goal in life. Because being able to match your purpose with your, you know, with your goal in life, with your, you know, day-to-day work, is the most amazing thing that you can have. And so that's why, but like I can suggest one thing about finding your purpose is, first of all, take a piece of paper and start writing things that you really enjoy doing. And then identify which one of those really associates with something that could be turned into a career, you know, a lifelong journey that you could pursue. And do not hesitate to like explore, because I've gone through so many things that I thought I'm passionate about, and then I dropped and moved to something else, because just that process of you know, going through that has led me to find something new that I'm like, oh, so I mean, I enjoy doing this actually. So, you know, to allow yourself to make mistakes and to allow yourself to, you know, open your, you know, horizon to like new experiences is the very first, you know, key step, you know, to get things started, you know. I would never recommend someone to go, you know, for the hype, you know, of, let's say, just for the sake of example, you know, coding is, you know, it's paying well, it's super cool, but if you don't really feel like it, it's just not good for you to, in a sense, fake it for yourself, and go through life with something that, you know, you really do not, your personality doesn't match with. And so that's why I'd say, like, enjoy the journey of, you know, exploring what exactly fits your passion, your love, and what you'd like to do. And then based on that, you know, because like now, you know, based on your purpose and everything, I'm sure there is, you know, companies that you will, you know, find, and like it's regardless of them accepting, you know, refugees or any, you know, marginalized groups and everything. I believe that when you're doing your passion, when you're doing something that you're like super into, I've seen people, like, you know, get jobs from all across the world. And especially with, you know, organizations like NAMA, it really enables, like, you see that willingness of connecting people in companies. Like the companies that I know of in the US, they're like mainly like US based and like kind of focused in the United States, but I've been advocating for them to also push, like, be more open to international hiring, just because it brings much more competition, and thus competition, in my opinion and my experience, has always brought more quality. So when you enable people who are really keen to, you know, experience and do work, you know, it really opens a new perspective for the companies as well. And my suggestion is, when it comes to like these experiences, my thought is, when you start gaining new skill which is career oriented, I would highly recommend to go on platforms that are for freelancers, just because, like, going through freelance is a bit of a difficult process, but it also builds a personality of being able to sell your skills to a company. And so that also comes with like a psychological effect of, like, you start appreciating yourself, because you need to compliment yourself in a sense, because you need to tell people why you, every single client. And when you go through that process, it just really, in your brain, it enforces the aspect of, I am a valuable asset for these companies and for these people. And when you do that, it really, you know, because it's hard when you're a refugee, when you're, you know, displaced person, but when you rewire your brain saying, I'm a valuable person, I am a person who's got like very useful assets that's going to make it possible for me to move forward. And when you remind yourself, because you have to when you do freelancing, when you remind yourself that, it's got tremendously positive impact for you.
Amazing. Excellent. Lorraine?
Ron's got a question again.
Yeah, hello. This time about languages. I've heard languages come up a few times from the panelists, also in the last storytelling session, the values of learning new languages, working with people with different languages, and in Sharaf's case, the barriers of languages. So it's not exactly a question, it's more just like to hear your different experiences with language and how it's helped or hurt your journeys.
Who wants to go first?
Happy to jump in if anything, because I personally speak 4, and then 5th one is like, Spanish is, so-so. I see language as, the best way to understand a culture. The reason for that is, I'm sure, a lot of people have seen this example in social media, but for example, the word bridge, and in Spanish, it's like a masculine, gender-wise in language, and in German language, it's feminine. So in Germany, they tend to describe bridges as beautiful, and they talk about the aesthetics of it, and then when it's masculine in Spain, they talk about its durability, it's strong and everything. And I think that tells a lot about a culture. That's the step one of understanding the way that community perceives the world in general. And because of that, I think it also opens new horizon for you, like new way of looking into the world. Because I'd also speak a language that, my native Turkish, which is like, does not have, gender within the language. And so it's not an easy thing, when you're like, gaining a new perspective. And this is just like the very core, I'm going super simple example of it. There is like way bigger nuances to languages. And I do think that, you don't have to focus on, the grammar correctly and this and that and perfect. Just, you shouldn't feel intimidated by new languages. Just jump into it. It's just like swimming in a sense, you throw yourself in and, you figure it out along the way. And same thing with the languages, the more you speak with natives, the more you speak with people, you learn it, and you'll just enjoy every step of the way, especially after you start communicating in that language.
If you may allow me to also just mention one point there, I think it's really remind me about something interesting about languages. I think languages are very important to everyone in the world, particularly to people who get displaced. Because now, whenever anybody comes to the camp, one of the best advice we can provide them is to try as much as they can to learn a new language fast, so that they'll be able to stand for themselves and communicate for themselves. Because languages change people's perception, languages change people's identity. I came to notice, for instance, in Kakuma refugee camp, that a couple of people who came at a certain period of time, all of them on their papers, they are said to be born on 1st of January. And then I just came to ask, why is it that everyone was born on 1st of January? And then people will tell me that at a certain time in Kakuma refugee camp, I think around 2013, many people came from South Sudan, so workers were overwhelmed, and there were not too many people to translate. So they could just they were just asking people about the year they were born in, and then the dates they just feel 1st of January. And that's how it has changed people's identity until now. So people will always have 2 dates of birth, and that can be minor because that's just a data set, but it has also an impact in people's lives, because I talk to people, I meet with people who got a certain bad impression about someone because at the first time they met, they could not understand each other appropriately. And I think languages at that doorstep, as Erkan put it, that welcome people into a new culture, that makes people understand the new culture. And that being the case, I think there is really a need there to to make sure that new people, newcomers in refugee camps get to master languages spoken in that particular place. Yeah, I think there is really a need on that. If I may just speak about languages as well, because I also faced a couple of challenges when I came. Now I speak 4 languages because I got to learn 2 languages here, Kiswahili and English. I think that it's a little bit easy for me to even open up and speak to people around in the camp and outside the camp as well.
Nelly, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to add on how languages change people's perceptions. I remember when I went to Switzerland, it was hard for me to communicate. You find that there are most of the people that just speak their own language, they're not fluent in English. There's another way how technology has advanced things. I was only communicating because there are types of ways whereby I was speaking Afrikaans in English, and they are also speaking their own languages. So what I could also do for me to communicate, I was using a non-verbal communication so that the message could reach. And if I feel like a non-verbal communication is not working, I'll take a piece of paper, I'll type what I want to speak to an audience, and then use Google. I'll use Google Voice Translation. And then after that, I'll just keep the record and send it to the person that I want to communicate with. Then we get to understand each other. Even when I visited Brazil, it was hard to communicate, and because the Portuguese of Mozambique and Portuguese of Brazil, it's kind of like different. And I find it's very hard. You find like most of the people, they end up liking you, they want to connect, they want to learn a lot of things about culture. But what I could always tell people and even advise my colleagues, simplicity and humility. Sometimes it's good to accept humility sometimes, and be simple, be kind to all nature, because the more you are being kind to them, the more you are learning the things that you didn't know. I was obliged to start learning again and start speaking their own Portuguese in order for me to be well understood. And I just found like the person cannot stop learning unless you are dead. You have to keep on learning every opportunity that's being presented to you, whether it's a common language, Spanish and whatever. Just keep learning, because when I remember when I welcomed the Finnish people from Finland, and they wasn't even communicating a proper English. They were just speaking Spanish, and they were also speaking Finnish language. For me to have to communicate, because I'm a fast learner when it comes to languages, I start like writing on papers, and like what are the most important things that I need to communicate to these people. Since I was like getting like people from Nigeria, Uganda, Kenya, DRC, Afghanistan, Lebanon, and Turkey, for them to get into the program. So I had to communicate the resources that we need for those people to be learning on their mobiles freely. So I share the idea to them. They need to be in partnership with Facebook so that these people can be using free basics in order for them to access the platform and get access to those free courses. And if there is any coupon, they have to send the free coupon so that they'll be able to learn for 6 months or a year. At least they'll get something durable for that. Thank you so much.
Sonia?
I have a different question if no one else wants to continue to answer this question. But if not, I have a question for Sharaf. So when I read his story, I was really impressed by the fact that the organization that he was part of gave him a second chance, given his circumstances. So I want to ask him, what message do you have for organizations working with migrants and displaced individuals? What would be your core message to them? given your experience?
Given my experience, I would tell them to keep supporting these people. And, because I've spent some time in Africa, East Africa, mainly Kenya, Uganda, and also in this part of the world, in the Afghanistan and Pakistan. So I understand that, they're really intelligent people out there, and most of them are living a compromised life because they do not have access to resources, and they're forced to live a compromised life. So such organizations can really help people, and overall they can make the world a better place to live in because of what they do and because of the resources that they have. And it's like the resources do not reach the target people, who have the intelligence to execute it. So I think this is what organizations should do. They should not just focus on the government levels, but they should also look for ways to go to the grassroots levels, and also look for ways to get those people, like filter them out, and then tell the governments, like, look, these are the people that we've identified, and we can bring them into countries with better opportunities, and they'll be productive, So that's what I think organizations should play a role in that. Thank you.
Hi. So I have one final question, a very, very quick one, probably not a quick answer, but the situation with the UK governments and Rwanda and the repatriation of refugees to Rwanda. I'm not sure if this is a red line here, Lorraine, but I would love to get a quick, take from you guys, positive or negative, and why. Just throwing a bit of fireworks in here.
Can I respond to that?
Yep, please, Nelly, go.
Thank you. I think there've been a lot of problems between this one nationality to be repatriated from their own country, which is Rwanda. Frankly speaking, Rwandese refugees have been they've been doing their best, deprived of in fact, some of them that have been here since 1905. And some of them have been here since 2000. And the fact they've been living here, they've never been given any integration. So they're no longer living like refugees. Some have been building their own houses, expanding their own businesses. So the government is taking advantage of that. If they have to chase refugees, because Rwandese people that doesn't like to live in the Zaleka refugee camp, they want to expand their businesses, and they were even asking if there could be any possibility for them to be to be granted that opportunity of being integrated and calling Malawi their own. Because if you have to see most of the economic of this country, mostly in Malawi, there's even 45% or even 50% of the economy that Rwandese businesses, big businesses, people are contributing to the economic. So I think this kind of decision of sending these people away from their country is not a tangible decision.
And I would say, if I may just add a point on that, I'm not sure I heard the question very well, but what I'd say is that I have a couple of friends in a couple of refugee camps here from Rwanda, and the majority of them.
Let me jump in. So repatriation from the UK to Rwanda. So repatriation of migrants who are in the UK.
I get it.
I'm not sure if you're following the news and all of the.
I understand.
Around that.
Sure, I know the story. So I'd say very simply, I'm not sure that's a good idea. And I have a couple of friends here who are refugees from Rwanda and who would not want to go to their home countries for certain reasons. So if they're not willing to go to their home countries, I know some may be willing to go, but I don't think it would be a good thing to get people from the UK to Rwanda. I think it's not a good thing to do for a couple of reasons. Number one, Rwanda itself does not have a very good reputation in terms of human rights respect, in terms of, there is actually an ongoing right now issue between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. I don't know who's right, who's wrong. But so there are actually a couple of bad things happening in Rwanda. and that would not make it a good, I would say, a good new place for people who are seeking asylum. And so that's my humble opinion. And I have also a couple of friends here, many Rwandans who live in Kakuma refugee camp under the Congolese or the Burundian identity, who came here and got registered as people from other countries, because when they get spotted to be coming from Rwanda, there are a couple of issues that they're scared about. Yeah, so I don't really believe that getting refugees to go to Rwanda is a good idea.
Thanks so much for that very, very, very frank and honest answer and analysis. Thanks.
Well, thank you, everyone. This has been such a fantastic session. Thank you so much to the committee. Thank you for all of our speakers. Thank you. We really appreciate you taking your time and sharing your stories with us, and sort of sharing about the work that you have done, and sharing, and sort of sharing your views. We aim to be a platform for you, and we will continue to do that.